Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos, blog, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz Podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. This episode is with adventure photographer Gordon Wiltsie. Gordon tells us about some of his more epic assignments and how he learned to endure as a youngster on family adventures. Welcome to the show, Gordon. Good to have you on.
Well, it's nice to be here, Rick. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, great to chat with you. So you say it's raining over there today, or was raining over there?
It's sunny and beautiful right now. It's been raining. I love the rain, having grown up in Bishop where it was always sunny and hot. I actually like the fog for a change.
Yeah, it's cooler, I'll bet. Yeah. So you grew up in Bishop. Was obviously your first experience to climbing and skiing and the outdoor stuff?
Yes, I actually got exposed at a very young age. My father moved to Bishop because he was helping to build the Barcroft Station for University of California and the Navy. Oh. And so I have a picture of myself at 6 weeks old up in the Patriot Grove at the Bristlecones.
Wow, very cool.
And we were very outdoorsy and did a lot of camping. Sometimes I say that I learned to suffer at a very young age, but we really endured some epic trips as a kid.
I'll bet. What was your first rock climbing experience?
I'm probably in the Boy Scouts. We would camp up in the buttermilks, in some of the scramble around on the rocks. Every once in a while I get stranded up there and we'd have to figure out how to get down. And I was climbing on rocks and trees at a pretty young age.
Right. And when was your first skiing experience?
That was really young. I think I finally stood on skis by myself at about age 4.
Wow.
Back when Dave McCoy was just building Chair 1 and such. My parents loved to ski, and so they would take me up and leave me in a basket with Coop, who ran the lifts there. Later, he took over the rental shop, and then I think at about age 4, my vague memories of my first run downhill and slamming into the building at the bottom, but eventually I learned to stop, and that was a good thing to know.
Yeah, right. That is a good thing to know, right? And what was your first outdoor job? Did you ever work outdoor retail? I don't remember talking about that with you.
My first outdoor job was, I took a job with the Forest Service building trails when I was in college to raise money to take a year off and go to Europe. And that was a wonderful job. I went back to work several more seasons doing different things for the Forest Service, but I'd actually worked before that at Union Carbide Mine, and that was a bit outdoorsy because I was on a labor gang that worked outside, but it was a little bit of a different industrial field of being outside.
I'll bet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And how did you get interested in photography?
I was interested in photography. My dad loved photography and especially making movies, and I think he was a frustrated filmmaker, but I got my first camera. I got a Kodak Brownie when I was 8 years old, and loved to take pictures. And then as I got older and was in the Boy Scouts, I got an old 35 millimeter reflex, not a single end. And then I got an old Bellows Kodak camera that I had to fuss around with.
Wow.
And then in high school, I got onto the yearbook and newspaper staffs and just went absolutely nuts. And that kind of turned my whole life around.
Yeah, and did you go through high school here in Bishop? When did you leave Bishop?
I didn't leave Bishop until 1992, but I was in the class of 1970 at Bishop High School.
Okay.
And photography really gave me an identity because I was like the smallest kid in the high school and, pretty intimidated. And when all of a sudden I got a camera and it was an excuse to misbehave in many respects because I could ditch classes and I got to go take pictures of this. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, the cool kids loved to have their pictures taken. They wanted to be in the newspaper. They wanted to be in the yearbook. So it gave me an identity and a validation. And, the crew, Bill Denton still lives in Bishop. Bill Albright lives in Bishop. Mm-hmm. Some of these guys, they introduced me not only to photography in the yearbook, but also to mountaineering at the same time. So, they didn't introduce me to photography, but that's where I became passionate, developing hundreds and hundreds of rolls of film and really learning the technical ins and outs of it.
And so you started dragging your camera along on all your outdoor adventures early, I'll bet.
I did. I think I'm not sure I took my camera on my very first climb, but I certainly took it on the second one. And I don't think I ever left it behind since. It was been kind of an albatross, but it paid the freight eventually.
Yeah. So when did you know it would be your career? When did you start making money at it?
And it took me, I started making money even in high school, selling pictures for this or that, or taking wedding pictures, or all kinds of different ad things. But I didn't really even envision it as a career until I was in college and I had an opportunity to go to a foreign study program in Nepal.
Oh, wow.
And at the time I was a chemistry major, and, I dabbled in all kinds of things, political science, but I had a chance to go to Nepal, and I couldn't get chemistry credit for going there. So I just taken a writing class, and I also loved photography. So I got some independent study in writing and photography. And then while I was gone, Doug Robinson, who I'd met when I was in high school, a leading practitioner he was a young writer, up and coming writer at that point in time, mountaineer. While I was in Nepal, he took a stack of pictures I'd given him and sent it to the magazine Mountain Gazette, which was one of the first ever outdoor publications. This is way before Outside. Or
one of the classics. Yeah.
And I came home from Nepal and I had one on the cover, a picture on the cover, and they put my name on the masthead. And
wow.
Oh my goodness. And I'd met Galen when I was in high school as well, Galen Rao, while I was in high school, and he was quite inspirational.
How about?
And so it was about that time when I got home from Nepal, and I changed my major, and I decided, well, I'm going to at least try to do this.
Turned out pretty good.
It took a long time before I was fully supporting myself and a family and all of that with photography, but I think I knew pretty early on that that's at least what I was going to try my damnedest to do.
Right. And so who were some of those, in addition to Mountain Gazette, who were some of the folks you shot for back then, early on? Or you just shot and sent it away? I mean, that was kind of the routine back in the day, right? You just took photos and sent them off to people.
Well, I mean, when I talked about when I was in high school, I wasn't sending them off anywhere. It was like local friends who wanted to buy a picture for this or that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But once I got into Mountain Gazette, a lot of it was word of mouth. I had pictures up at the bike shop in Bishop years ago. Uh-huh. And Steve Roper, who was one of the editors of Ascent, saw them. He said, hey, send us some pictures for Ascent. And somehow Chris McDivitt at Chenard Equipment heard about me and asked me to send pictures to the early Chenard catalogs. And one thing led to the next, and then I started sending them out. I never had much luck just sending pictures out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I developed a big stack of rejection letters, and I could sort of judge them by the size they were.
We've all got stacks of those, right?
I mean, there was one I got from the New Yorker that they didn't want to waste paper, so it was like 2 by 4 inches big.
Nice. And so what was your first official assignment from someone?
Mountain Gazette started giving me little assignments. Say, hey, if you're going here, take some pictures for us. They never gave me any money. I think the first assignment was probably for Outside magazine.
Okay. Uh-huh. So much later then.
Much later than that.
Yeah. And what was one of your most epic assignments?
Well, that's
you've been around the world. You've had a couple of epic adventures I know about.
Well, epic seemed to be the byword for me. I remember Doug Robinson got an assignment to climb El Cap in the winter, way back in 76 or something like that. And we tried to get up that, and I remember getting trapped in a horrendous rainstorm, and we didn't have Gore-Tex or any pile. I think Doug had some of the first ever fiber pile in Gore-Tex, but I was with my friend Jay Jensen, one of my high school companions, and been all over the world with me.
Yeah, he's still here in Bishop.
We were just miserable.
I'll bet.
And almost died of hypothermia, but so many other trips have been. My first big National Geographic assignment had to be, I guess, a bit of an epic. We went down to a mountain range at the very southern tip of the Andes, which is kind of surrounded by the Chilean fjords in Patagonia. And nobody had ever climbed in the range because you could never see the range. The weather was so awful there.
Wow.
And we spent 2 months, and out of the 2 months we were there, I think we had maybe 6 or 7 good days the entire time we were there.
Wow. Just rainy and wet, or snowy and cold?
Rainy and wet and snowing.
Everything.
It was right at sea level, and the temperature never got really cold, but the wind blew 100, 120 miles an hour at times.
Wow.
I remember getting pinned down in a snow cave for like 10 days, and for some stupid reason, I'd taken a down bag up there, and it just was this sodden lump of nothing, and it was so miserable. We ran out of food, and we were rooting through the floor of the snow cave for tea bags to reuse.
Oh, my God.
But every time we went outside, I only weigh like 140 pounds. And
you don't have a lot of,
One of the heavier guys went out to look for something, and he got picked up in the wind and blown like 20 feet in the air uphill. And we finally got down. That whole trip was a massive epic, but it's kind of what you have to endure at times. And I got some fabulous pictures on the few good days, and I guess that's what it takes.
And what were you shooting?
What were
the subjects? What were the subjects? Was it just landscapes and climbing adventure, or was it?
It was a climbing expedition, the first mountaineering expedition to visit the Cordillera Sarmiento.
Okay, got you.
And Jack Miller, who lived in Bishop periodically, was a mountain travel guide and longtime mountaineering guide, had come up with the idea, and he'd been in there once before, and went in there with Dan Acey, who also lives in Bishop.
I saw Dan the other day.
Years ago. And, this was back in the 80s probably, and they went in there for a month, and they never even saw the mountains. But he was intrigued, and then afterwards he was leading a trip for mountain travel down there and spotted the range from a distance and chartered a plane and flew up and down it. And, oh, my God, we got to do this. And so we went back, and it turned out to be it was a really successful story for Geographic. And,
very cool. So you learned how to endure then.
I learned how to endure. I actually learned how to endure when I was a kid because some of the camping trips with my parents, they like to do pretty daring things. A couple times we went far north up into Canada all by ourselves, either canoeing or hiking. And this is way back when we had little cotton sleeping bags with mallards printed on the inside and tents that leaked. And, I think I suffered more back then than even some of the worst occasions I've had recently.
Jeez. And what was one of your most enjoyable assignments?
I think my most enjoyable assignment was one of the later ones I did for National Geographic. Spent 2 months in Mongolia documenting migration of like 5,000 people and 100,000 animals, camels, yaks, goats, sheep, cows, across a mountain range from their summer pastures to their winter pastures. It was really an epic and a visual extravaganza is a better way to put that.
I can imagine. Yeah, people and animals. That's awesome.
And I had been alerted to it by a professor at Montana State University. I was living in Montana at the time. And he was connected to the former governor of the region. And so the governor was my guide, or the former governor.
Wow.
and I just had a wonderful crew and a budget, and it was an incredible experience. I actually taught myself to speak a fair amount of Mongolian so that I could communicate with the people. It was very, very gratifying. I've always wanted to do cultural projects. That's what I first started off, wanting to photograph after I went to Nepal when I was in college. I lived with a family over there that didn't speak English and had to learn Nepali, which was a skill that really served me well at the time, and which is, was vital to my career getting started. That I would never have been able to succeed in photography if I hadn't also been a guide.
Right.
And a mountaineering guide enabled me to get paid to go into the mountains, but I was also a cultural guide for Mountain Travel and other companies. So I get paid some pittance to go over to Nepal, but I get all my expenses paid.
Sure.
And I could spend a little money ahead on film. And so I was very fortunate to be at the leading edge of people going to Nepal and the Himalaya and India and even Tibet later, before they were really on the worldwide radar screen.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then another chapter changed, and I was able to do the same thing in Antarctica, which I wound up going to almost by accident. Mm-hmm. And since then, I probably made 25 trips to Antarctica and the Arctic, which in my later career was definitely my focus.
Yeah. And is there anywhere you'd like to go back to?
Almost anywhere I've ever
been. You've been to some great places, man.
I really have been to some spectacular places and feel quite blessed to have had that opportunity. One place I would like to go to that I haven't really been to is Africa.
Oh, okay.
To explore that. I mean, I spent 3 weeks in Cape Town, South Africa, waiting for a plane to fly to Antarctica. And we couldn't leave more than a few hours from Cape Town. And so I sort of got a tantalizing look at that continent. Yeah. There are a lot of other places. I've never been to New Zealand. I've never been to Australia.
Oh, wow.
And there are a heck of a lot of places in the Sierra Nevada and other places that I haven't been.
We're pretty fortunate to live here in the Sierra Nevada. There's some fabulous places, unlimited, to go exploring and photographing. True. Yeah. And tell us about some of the nonprofits you work with.
I've been doing, and I really feel quite passionately, especially about trying to preserve wilderness environments and open spaces and things like that. So over the whole span of my career, I've tried to help out where I could. And the best help I can give to an organization is someone who doesn't have a lot of money is to donate photography and do assignments for some of the organizations I'm really passionate about are the American Prairie Reserve up in Montana.
Oh,
they are very effectively buying up sort of failing ranches that have vast grazing rights through the BLM. And over the last 15 years, they've raised over $100 million and bought thousands and thousands of square miles that they're turning into a private wildlife preserve that's open to the public. It's even open for hunting and fishing and camping. But their goal is to build an open space bigger than Yellowstone out in the high prairies.
Wow, that would be cool.
They've already reintroduced bison, and they're hoping to get wolves back there and grizzly bears and the animals that back when Lewis and Clark were exploring, it was like the Serengeti.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And they're hoping to recreate that. It's kind of a long-term goal that, maybe it's 50 years down the road, but they've been enormously successful. So several times I've gone up and done major photo shoots to let them use my work. I also work with the American Himalayan Foundation that does a lot of build schools and other educational programs in Nepal and Tibet and India.
Well, we'll link to both of those in the show notes. That's great. Yeah, I'm familiar with AHF. I hadn't heard of the American Prairie Group.
The American Prairie Reserve. It's quite effective. Money that's been very well spent. Kind of operating under the radar, but I mean they're on the state maps now, and a significant amount of acreage up north of Fort Peck Reservoir, and now south of it and west of it as well.
Man, that'd be great to go explore that. Yeah.
I also worked with the Alex Lowe Charitable Foundation, which is named after the late Alex Lowe, who was a very dear friend of mine and one of my one of the people I photographed a lot for National Geographic. They're raising money. They run climbing schools for Sherpas and are building a climbing center over there right now, raising money for a building and
very cool
permanent center over there. So it's that kind of thing that I really, I think it's important to devote our time, what time we can give to things that are important to us.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. Yeah. And do you have any suggestion or advice for folks wanting to get into outdoor photography or grow their career if they're already in?
Well, my advice is, persevere, because it's not an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, be passionate about it and keep your options open. Some of the best advice I ever got was, keep doing what you love, but have a fallback plan, and, have another career that you can pursue. And it was funny because he said, now Gordon here, he's got the perfect thing. He's got guiding, and I laughed at the time, but, that was true. And, I had artists who were cousins who were very successful artists eventually in the Bay Area. And they said, well, have a way to make money that doesn't take a whole lot of creativity. So that when you have your free time, that you can devote it, that your creativity isn't spent. And I thought that was great advice as well.
Yeah.
But the main thing is to believe in yourself. And I think in photography especially, one place where a lot of people fall down is with modern cameras and digital and Photoshop and all that, is feel like you don't really have to pay your dues. I think it's really important to be technically proficient and know how to light a situation, and so that you can go someplace and know that you're going to come back with something decent, even if it's not what you expected.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, you got to get the shot no matter what.
Right. And just banking, really have to learn what you're doing with all those f-stop and all those little relationships are all about.
Yeah. These new cameras have spoiled us to some effect in Lightroom. It's crazy.
They have. I mean, I don't mean to denigrate them, because I love Lightroom and I love Photoshop, but technical expertise, there's no, and I look at the people who are really doing well in photography these days, and, they really know their stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, hanging out with some of those guys is pretty fun. And what other outdoor activities do you participate in these days over on the coast? Still do a lot of hiking, walking?
I do a lot of walking.
Mm-hmm.
I love going down, taking my camera, maybe just one lens, and walking up down the coast, or just sitting on a rock and kind of meditating and watch what's going on. Mm-hmm. And, it's a wonderful experience. There's so much wildlife here. It just astonishes me.
Yeah.
I think, wow, and you need to go to Antarctica to see things like that. Well, that's not true. Right here on the coast, even over in Bishop, not quite the same in Bishop, but you just watch what's going on and fall in the spell of the world around us. I love doing that. And, I ride my bike periodically, go gym climbing.
Oh, cool. It's still pretty good over here in Bishop. You could get out and about and see the deer as they're migrating back and forth, and the sheep are up in the hills if you know when and where to go. It's still pretty fabulous over here. It's great. And bird life is unbelievable, as you know.
The bird life is unbelievable. I've just been flashing back on one of my favorite things to do when I lived in Bishop was canoeing on the Owens River.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You just never knew what was going to be around the next bend, with great blue heron or all incredible bird life.
Right. And do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity? Obviously, getting down and with your camera is great, but do you meditate or anything?
Sometimes I meditate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very good thing to do. Routines have eluded me for most of my life.
You've been on the go so much, I'll bet. Yeah.
I'm actually trying to work on finding routines to try to be more productive, and because the variety of things that I wind up doing in any given day can be vexing. And
it can be overwhelming. All this digital stuff. Amazing how much time suck it is, right? Man.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I enjoy it, but it reminds me in a way of working in the darkroom.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. And how about, what are some of your favorite books or books you give as gifts?
Well, I've always loved adventure books. I remember when I was in high school reading 7 Years in Tibet, which is still a classic.
Great book, yeah.
And like the book about Shackleton, The Endurance.
Yeah, another classic, yeah.
Mawson's Will, about a fabulous explorer, or Australian explorer who nearly perished and wound up spending a winter unexpectedly in Antarctica because his ship sailed away without him.
That's a good one, too.
I really like books like that.
Yeah, those are great.
There's one I read recently called The Terror. It's a novel based in truth about the Franklin expedition. They disappeared in the far north. And it's a bit of a surreal book. And it starts off very realistic and goes off into Inuit legends in the end. But I found it quite gripping. I enjoy books like that.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, those are great. I was fortunate to meet Heinrich Harrer at the Banff Film Festival one year. What a great guy. Man.
Oh, my. Yeah. I would love that opportunity.
That was very cool. Yeah. So all the places you've been, all the outdoor adventures, do you have a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
My headlamp.
Oh, yeah. Classic. Yeah. I'll bet you've survived based on that headlamp use in certain places, huh? A couple times?
I've survived on it, and I've been able to read the books I like. Right. I think it's one thing I never go anywhere without.
Yep, I agree. Yep. Is there anything you would like to say or ask of our audience before we wrap up?
Well, you have a passionate audience, I think, and that cares about a lot of things, and I just hope, it's easy to be in the outdoors and say, oh, the rest of the world, that's just bullshit out there. Mm-hmm. But, we depend on the rest of the world out there, and the landscapes that we love and enjoy so much, we really have to work to protect. And there are some pretty frightening things going on in the world today. And I think we need to stand up and make our voices counted and, really do everything we can to be advocates for the mountains and the ocean and the landscape and the rich cultural diversity of the planet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as Americans, we have a lot of power, and I just don't think all of us use the personal power that we have to the extent that we could. And so I think we need to be advocates and, stand up for what we care about.
That's great advice. I support that 100%. Get involved. Yep. And how can people reach out to you and contact you if they'd like? Email or LinkedIn, Facebook?
Email is probably a good way.
Okay. We'll put a link to your email, and
I also have an Instagram account.
Okay. Well,
I've been kind of ignoring social media recently. I've been taking a break from it.
It gets pretty overwhelming, doesn't it?
It does get overwhelming, but I'm building up a backlog of new Instagram posts, and periodically I'm on Facebook. It can tend to be quite time consuming, and I've been ignoring it for a while I think more about contemplative things, but I have nothing against either of those. So Facebook is one way. However, I think the what do you call it? The methods they have of who gets to see what.
Oh, the logarithms. Yeah, they're shifting them again. Yeah.
The algorithms. I have, a ton of followers on my fan page, and yet I don't think anybody ever sees anything I post. So
yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Well, we'll link to all those things in the show notes and make sure everybody can reach out to you if they have any questions or want to just say hi. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. It's been great chatting with you.
Well, it's great talking to you, Rick. I appreciate the chance to say a few things here.
Yeah. When are you coming back to Bishop?
Pretty soon, probably the next couple of weeks, actually.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, maybe we can connect up, catch Alan, and go grab a meal or something.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. He should know what's going on. I hope he's going to be around.
I think he is. I think he's done traveling for a while.
Oh, good.
Cool. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, Rick. Well, it's fun talking to you.
All right.
If you have any questions, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Gordon Wiltsie. You can catch up with him on email at gw@alpinimage.com, on Facebook at Alpinimage Gordon Wiltsie Photography, and Instagram at Gordon Wiltsie. That's GORDONWILTSIE. You will find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/074. I would be grateful if you visit iTunes and give us a rating and review, and be sure to share this episode or tell a friend about it. This episode is supported by Scott Oshman and the Cairn Company. I had Scott on the show in October. You can listen on episode 044. Thank you, Scott. You can support the show too. Visit patreon.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast and see the many ways you can support the show. Thanks for listening. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure and make time to get outside.